Bienvenidos al Festival RealMix 0.2 2022. Este festival es un evento virtual que tiene como objetivo reconocer y fomentar la creación y experimentación tecnológica a través de proyectos de realidad virtual, VR, realidad aumentada, AR, y realidades mixtas, MX, propiciando una serie de reflexiones en torno a la creación, uso y circulación de contenidos inmersivos, por medio de una programación que incluye intervenciones artísticas, conversatorios, talleres y conciertos, a cargo de destacados invitados y artistas colombianos e internacionales.
Okay, so hello, good evening, buenas noches, buenos días todos. Estamos acá con el grupo de artistas de Suecia, Martina Seitl y Christer Lundahl. Y yo soy Asher Remy-Toledo, el fundador de Hyphen Hub, una organización que trabaja al borde de la tecnología, tecnologías creativas. Welcome everyone again. I'm switched to English now again. Just wanted to say this hello in Spanish. So Martina and Christer, it's a very interesting piece what we have in the festival today, and I know there is some little challenges to transmit a lot of what you work into a space that is totally virtual. Could you tell us a little bit about this piece, Eternal Return? We're going to talk about three works that I think kind of are very intertwined with, with what you do, which is all this very, see as a very interesting multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary practice, where it's not just virtual or digital, but it also both comes from, like Martina comes from the world of performance and choreography, and Christel, you come from the world of art, like you tell a little bit more what kind of art and how they both got connected and started to, to fuse these two areas of practice. And so the piece that we selected for RealMix this year, it's called Eternal Return. Could you tell us a little bit about it and perhaps guide us through what the audience is going to see?
Mm-hmm. Yes, maybe we can start by telling you like how it actually started, that how come we started to work at the piece Eternal Return.
Awesome.
And it started in 2019 in a collaboration together with ScanLab projects that are London based. And me and Krista has for a long time working with immersive artworks that uses three-dimensional sound, often sensory deprivation by using sightless goggles, and also by using the element of human touch in the work as kind of intertwined choreography. For a long time, we've been in a way rejecting working with virtual reality. But once we got introduced to the work of ScanLab, we completely changed our mind and fell in love with the medium. And it felt unusually familiar in the way that we worked with immersive artworks and works that you move inside with your body in space. So I'm going to describe a little bit the original version of Eternal Return as it exists, first of all, in a physical space. So it was premiered in 2019 in Eindhoven at the SRP Stripe Festival in Holland. And it's a quite large-scale installation that exists in three different chapters. Actually, there are three completely different VR art pieces that are being shown. And when you walk in, you kind of are being met by the sight of a lot of 3D printed objects that are 3D printed from the digital world itself. And these are not complete objects, but they are fragments of objects that exists inside the digital world. And then what you also see in the large scale installation is one of the most important element, and also what is of course really hard to transfer digitally, is the performer aspect. So each one of these chapters has a performer. And so we work with something that is quite unusual for virtual reality piece, is the element of touch. And both touching different objects.
Can we see some of the images while you are talking over?
Yes,
over
yeah, that's good moment to show, actually.
Yeah, we can show that. We could also continue speaking, and then you could add in the film later, perhaps.
No, I mean, maybe show now.
Yeah, like maybe you could show now the like in minute 15, perhaps, where the installation is. And then the other parts.
Yeah, I do that. Okay, so I'm gonna share. And I'm gonna go to here. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, sorry. I am gonna go to somewhere else. I'm gonna go to where I kept it. It was here. Yeah, so I'm gonna play this now, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm gonna close this, right? Do you see the whole screen?
Yes, I see it, yeah.
And okay, so I'm gonna put it, so you don't see any other things, only the video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the two of you kind of pop up.
Yeah, okay, good. So Martina.
So as explained previously, there are 3D printed objects, fragments of objects from the digital world. And as you see now in this film is that there is a performer, and the performer is holding a tracker, which is a live element inside the work. This tracker is represented as a cluster of moving points that interact with the participant inside the work.
And at this instance, the tracker has been exchanged with the touch of a hand. And what, well, the visitor was before feeling the hand, now we're shifting, unfortunately. What you have here is that the performer is, it's going too quickly. It's too quickly. So I can say something about this.
You want to pause?
So, yeah. So, what you see here is the visitor coming close to a wall inside Steinway Piano Factory in London. They feel on the wall in the factory this kind of soundproofed wall. So they, like in the objective world where we see it here outside, it's a fragment, but they experience it as a full wall. And the performer is then taking the visitor's hand away from the wall and leads them away from it. And when they come back to the wall, as you will soon see, the wall will not be there anymore, and they will pass through the wall into another room.
This is also what you see now is that the logic behind the work is that when you touch a physical object, the virtual world is building. When you let go of the object, it actually collapses and kind of disintegrates. So the role of the participant is very important inside the work. The 3D scannings are made from Steinway & Sons piano factory. It's inside a cellar in London below the piano factory, where piano tuners are working on tuning pianos. And we thought about these pianos as piano makers, as makers of time. And the work Eternal Return, as you hear from the title as well, has a, it's almost like a contemplation around what time could be.
Yeah, and there's not going to be much more video, in fact, but I mean,
yeah, I was fortunate enough that I saw this installation in London at a Scan Lab, and it was very fascinating just to enter first. You know, I enter like that you guys bring somebody which is into another room, and where they put my goggles on, and they kind of prepared me, and then I had not seen what was the installation that was in the other room, and then it took me into the other room, and I was guided as this person is in the video. So because the imagination was going through, which was the touching and the virtual, it was these two things. Very, it was really wonderful. One of the most, I would say, wonderful experiences that was immersive, from binaural to physical to virtual participation. And yes, I was after that, I was, of course, me as a producer that I am, of course, that I went and you guys allowed me to being silent in a corner, just watching the other audience members interact with it. And that's what I understood, kind of what we are seeing now in the video, how things are made. And is that so? How did this? When this you guys were started working first with virtual, digital, and or how did it transform into the performative and choreograph? And when also did it switch to participate with companies like ScanLab that works with all these more the technological aspect of things?
Yeah. So the starting point, I think Martina mentioned that our starting point with immersion is the fact that, like, paying attention to actually having a body. In normal everyday life, it's quite, there is quite often a social presence that we have. We're quite much up in our minds, and these kind of artworks, first of all, I think makes us experience that we have a body and pay attention on how we are in a way wired to perceive the world, like with our sensory modalities, with so the starting point was for us, as Martina said, it took about 10 years before we started to work with technological VR, but the concept of virtual reality was not necessarily something that we was talking about in the beginning, but for us, the first work we did was 2006 around, and that was working with the sort of sightless goggles. You took away the vision of people having this kind of goggles, and they have three-dimensional sound in the headphones, and you combine that with synchronized touch and movement, and that on its own, without having any visual images, produced a sense of being in space, and the context where we placed this work was the place of the museum, and for us that was important because we wanted to sort of have the context for this kind of work in architecture, which is really a temple of objects where you expect to look at things. So for us, it was important, like in the way you entered this work and the expectations that you had when you entered this work. So because, if you expect to look at things and there is nothing there, and then you somehow are more, then you're already in the sort of world of thinking about the visuals. So somehow people, without having visual stimuli, they started to produce it themselves. So many people came out afterwards talking about that, all of those places where they have been, and then also somewhat realizing that these places never existed other than in their mind, basically.
Is that the Symphony of the Missing Room?
That is the Symphony of the Missing Room, yeah.
Can we show some images of that happening? Do you have some?
Sure, okay.
If it's not too much to put you in trouble searching for it.
Yeah, I would say that it's maybe better to put it on. I can send it afterwards and you can cue it. Let's say I can put some images, and then the people that edits this can basically understand where it could be, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go here and then put symphony in.
That was one of the rooms that actually, when I met Martina here in New York, first time, Martina had me participate in the Symphony of the Missing Room. We did it actually at the new museum as well, like walking through the new museum and blindfolded, and she was just guiding me. And No, it was not a set performance. So people, the audience that were in the museum didn't have a clue what was going on. Why were we doing that? Which made it the more fascinating. Like, are these two people performers? Is something happening here that was not listed, that was supposed to happen now?
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of not accessible in a way to the outside world, but yet, like here in this image, you almost see, like, because when the performance happens inside the museum, it happens in the public space, and it's in synchron. The performers are in synchronicity with each other, so it looks like the more kind of performers you are on the visitors, the more it looks like a strange ritual taking place inside the museum.
Exactly.
In that way.
It looked like a very strange ritual that we were going on, because you had the headphones, I had the headphones, you hear what I was hearing. So you were guiding me through the different elements that I was, like, arches and steps and open parks, but everything was inside a room.
Exactly.
And that we could see?
And it's also like...
Sorry?
Is there anything that we could see, or should we just see in other videos?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, so I didn't, I didn't actually share the screen there, did I?
Oh,
yeah, no.
Okay, so, yeah, sure. So here, now you see it, right?
Yes, so we see it. So this is kind of what I was just describing. And then, but the person is being guided by, the voice of, Martina or one of the performers, and you're just into this magical room. You are wearing the goggles before you enter the room. Was this one of your first works that you did?
This is not the first work, but it's one of the most earlier works that we did, and it's probably one of our most shown works internationally. Yeah. And it's in fact, it became more of a medium than a work. So it started as an artwork, and then the more time when we made the piece, when we adapted it to a new museum, it started to become a series of work. But there was always a strong link to the original work, of course, but with a specificity of the history of a place or the curatorial framework of an exhibition. And it's a flexible artwork, so it kind of always adapts to a particular location. So today, actually, we are premiering a version of it in a paper museum in Japan, Kochi, Japan. And then later on in September, we will show it in Achenald Observatory in Berlin, which is an observatory where Einstein first but where he first actually presented the relativity theory. And there is a big telescope kind of inside the observatory. So we are constantly adapting the work to the location. And now we have it also ongoing in Kassel. It's running alongside Documenta 15 in Kassel at the Stadttheater there. So there's a particular version that adapted to that location and context. So it's change the medium.
Would you change the context, what people are hearing according to the space?
Yes, definitely. According to the space, according to the history of the space, it can also be the curatorial context, or also sometimes in relationship to other artworks that are present inside the space. That heavily influence work.
Who is the screenwriter, the one who develops the whole content that goes in the sound piece?
What do you mean?
Is any of you the one who writes all the text? Let's say there is the Einstein space in Berlin. Who will?
Like that you mean? Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
Which one of us is?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think the changes. I mean, we work. The interesting thing is Martina is a choreographer as a background, and I'm from the visual arts. But today, it might be that use it and work with the editing of the sound or the structure, and I might make script. Then sometimes we go and rehearse and testing things out with the movement and choreography. So the roles are absolutely interlinked and changing a lot.
They're definitely fluid in that sense. So yeah, I mean, I am an absolute space nerd. Really, always loved
talking about the architecture. The architecture is a big part of your So how would you describe your work? It's not a virtual work per se. It's a theatrical, performative experience. So how would you describe it when you talk about what you do?
Yeah, well, it is very hard to because it doesn't exist in a single genre. So it borrows from a lot of different, methodologies. From, like it has the temporal structures from film, for example, and it has the movement and choreography from dance, and it has dramaturgy and staging from the theater. But then again, the artwork is none of them, and it's also even hard for us to call it something. But
for example, normally in the art world, you would maybe show an art piece for several months' time, but in the theater you have shorter runs. But the moment the way we show the work is a paradox, because in Stadttheater Kassel, we show it at the theater, but we show it for 3 months there, so which is not the usual format, for example. So it's kind of also economically, it bleeds into different mediums.
The thing is that if I would say that this work is one thing, if I would call it something, I would say that it is, it's interesting to think about in relation to media art. Media art is maybe the idea of that, that you are critical or exploring a specific medium to see what it does to your perception, and how does it change society or human experience. But like our work, what it does, maybe I think what it does, like immersion, then this is like a big buzzword, I would say that it looks at immersion in particular without any narrative towards it. Many people that works with immersion would then immerse you into something specifically. We immerse you inside immersion to understand what immersion is, right?
I'm not really agreeing there,
no?
Actually. I think we have different ideas of what a story is, but I think what you're trying to say is that we are more of an abstract storytellers. So it's not like we would easily say, okay, the story starts like this and it ends like this, and then we have the conflict in the middle. It doesn't have a traditional, as to say, dramatical curve.
Yeah, but we don't tell any story.
No, not story as such, but it still has, like, I think maybe the work rather has a sort of an equation, and we often talk about, or we haven't found the right equation for the work yet, and that is in a way what people would call the story.
But with our work, like this, let's say Garden of Ghost Flowers, which is maybe something we will talk about later.
Yes.
Although it does actually has some kind of like narrative towards it. It's like has like an overarching world that we're trying to sort of like put up. But in its essence, it's much more about to use an artwork, the medium of art, to understand how humans are affected by technology, and to what extent we can meet something that is not human within technology, because human is like this Heideggerian sort of thing, that the technology, the human is that is interlinked with the technology that we make. But can we go out of that sort of echo chamber, can we, within our technology that we make, can we meet something that is not non-human,
Yeah, and there's also an important thing. So when we talk about story, it's kind of a different principle if we are inside the story. So if we work with immersion, it's not the same to just present a story for the visitor because you're in it. It's almost like being inside an orchestra as a player at the same time as you are a viewer of the work. So it's a kind of, you're writing a piece of sort of story. I would say music now, but I mean story. But you write a piece of music where you, as the participant, are also player of an instrument.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is a different equation. Yes.
Yeah. Can we see part of the video of just to finalize this part of the eternal return, and then we switch to the other piece, the AI of the.
You want to see something with eternal return?
Yeah.
Yeah, eternal return. Just a little bit of a video, just to I think if it's possible to see something kind of like what we are seeing in the Mozilla hubs.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to share and I'm going to go to.
So, yeah, one of the things that I found very interesting about your work in general, and I said in particular about the eternal return, that is, it is some of the effects are almost paranormal, I would say. It's kind of a physical and a ghost, where the virtual becomes almost a ghost of the present, of the object. And
Yes.
it either be the person or either be the object, and then it disintegrates and becomes, it's like the shadow or ghost. So the two of them live in a very together, reality in a way, if I describe it well.
Yeah, that's really, I would say that is sort of a strong observation, because I think the ghost aspect is very strong in our work. And what is a ghost? I mean, it's about presences and absences and about time, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And something like, for example, I would like going back to what you say about ghosts and what we talk about time here, because in order to have a ghost, we need a passage of time. So we normally speak about ghosts from the past to haunt the present moment. So what you see, and I would like to connect that to what you see in this image at the moment, is what Christus, or the performer, then is holding is a stromatolite. And a stromatolite is a stone. It's a fossilized stone that contains traces of the cyanobacteria, which were responsible to create our oxygenated atmosphere. And when you feel it with the fingers, it's almost like feeling one of the Earth's earliest memory records, because it has an irregular surface. And this is also one object that you touch, apart from the 3D printed objects inside Eternal Return. So it's kind of you being, in a way, haunted by the past just by kind of touching the fossil. But there is also something, in order for a time to, the way we think about time is, or the way actually we perceive time as passing, is that we leave traces into the past. We cannot leave traces into the future. But in fact, in Eternal Return, as you hear from the title, is more of it's more of a loop. So what happens in Eternal Return is that you can actually leave traces into the future, and that is what happens. And once you have a loop of time in the structure, you can encounter different copies of yourself in different time streams. Yeah. So you might encounter yourself 3 minutes into the future, or you might see yourself like 2 minutes into the past, and then those kind of they coexist in different ways, and that destabilizes the reality of the piece.
But but then evolution is traces into the future in a way. I mean, this cyanobacteria, was then of course continue evolution, because but in our body, like the existing, two systems, like for example, before, like this simple type of one-celled and two-celled organism, some of them might be anaerobic. They didn't use oxygen. But there is also still within us, in humans, actually parts of the breathing, like the oxygen, the way how we can get to oxygenate.
Yes.
It's like there's also like sorry, the way how our muscles get energy.
Yeah.
Is also some other pathways which is actually not needing oxygen. So there's also like old pathways that is like a trace from the past.
But it's a beautiful,
it's like you have the rock, like I think it is the rock or something, where you are talking that is from thousands of years, and it was I don't know, a meteorite or something, and you are holding it in your hands, and there's all this magic happening in the VR space. So can we move towards the AI flower, because that's another very interesting segue to this project.
I haven't really. I think maybe I can find.
You
something.
Want to see an image of the?
Should we put some images? Video. Okay, so garden video. Let's see what it comes up.
I saw it early in the Vimeo ones, I think.
Here it is something. Oh yeah, okay. So here we see here we are at the Magazine 3 in Stockholm. This is an art center in Stockholm. And there's about 20 people with this VR goggles on. At this moment, they don't see anything. They only see a black screen. It's a blindfold. And there's a workshop leader that is helping them to how to use their voice. And when they use their voice for the first time, they would have seen this string of particles coming out from their mouth.
And the intention, so why are they doing this? So now the story behind the project is called Garden of Ghost Flowers, and it's a collaboration together with Untold Garden. And what it's about a virtual life form, a virtual ghost flower that first of all exists in hibernation, and it's an ecosystem because it needs human voices in order to wake up, and it needs the human voice in order to kind of come into existence. But it's not only enough to use your voice, because when you use your voice, as Krista said, it comes out as particles, but you need another voice next to you and to be in resonance with it in order to create like the first kind of living life forms of the ghost flower. So what you see here is an organism that might appear in between two voices. So you don't see your body. You only see your voice, because the voice is the only thing that is important to this flower. And in a way, it's almost like the flower itself is never really fully visible. And it feels a little bit maybe like if you heard about Darwin's ponds, where very early life molecules, even before there were cells, the molecules themselves tried to stabilize themselves into life forms, but then they would very often burst after some time.
And nothing would continue.
And nothing would continue until much later. So this work, in a way, felt a little bit like the beginning of life, because with your voices, you would kind of create this beginning of life, which would kind of then burst. But then we were inspired by a sociologist called Hartmut Rosa, who speaks about the concept of resonance. And resonance is a way of listening, responding, and adapting, rather than calculating, commanding, and controlling. So that was the kind of the way we wanted the voices to interact with each other. It's kind of about listening and responding to one another. So together with Untold Garden, we were kind of exploring different ways to how to kind of create an AI that would kind of pick this up. But it's a very difficult project, and we kind of decided that now we call it the Garden of Ghost Flower Lab. So it's an exploration that will take many years before we fully kind of understand it.
Yeah. But it's very interesting, the psychological aspect of it, the concept, where you are, in the concept of resonance, and then you are how relate to objects, live or rocks, or anything like that, and based on that you build the whole piece, which is the same thing with the other one, Eternal Return, when you mentioned like people are blindfolded, you put your hand on the shoulder and then you remove your hands, but your voice continues on the headphones in the kind of whispering to the ear. So it is this space that we imagine that the person is next to us, but then it's away and it's here. It makes us like something I find interesting about your work is like you explore and make us a little bit more aware of other senses that we could have, and the virtual becomes almost as an extra sense, if I would say the word, like an extra sense that we have, but we don't really develop or use that much.
Yeah, interesting. And then and then the virtual maybe in our work then could be some shifting. I mean, it's not always the same, but in a way the artwork is in a way, in every artwork we maybe, is what you're saying, we may be creating maybe some kind of extra sense, something, a new awareness of sensory, that it might even be the sense of being a collective, because that's something like, when do you feel being a collective? Maybe at a concert or at church, or other kind of gatherings. But in this kind of work, you sort of you have a sense of collectivity, and then I don't know in what way you are allowed to have a subjectivity within those. You do somehow, but yeah.
I'm also picking up on what you said, Asher, with the kind of, you described the hand is on the shoulder, then it's removed, and then the voice continues still, as if still being there, and that is kind of you describing a paradox. And it's almost like a contradiction. And I think our work often exists of those paradoxes, but in many different ways. There are many there are frictions between the physical world and the virtual world. So an example of that, going back to, for example, Eternal Return, would be that you see virtually in your VR headset, you see the piano tuner's desk, and you see the piano tuner's hammer lying down there in virtual reality. But when you take a hand to feel it, you actually feel the working desk, but you feel the hammer as an inversion. You feel it as a negative space rather than as a positive space. So that's like a paradox, or just a simple paradox like Krista already showed before. You feel a wall, and then you go away from the wall, you come back to the same wall that you both kind of recently felt and you saw virtually, and then you walk through it, although your bodily memory still tells you that you felt a physical wall there.
Yeah, it's exactly, because it's all somehow about, well, how can you experience a hammer without it being, I mean, like, what is the, that is almost like a time thing, like how can you experience a hammer that is not there? You know, it's like a contradiction.
That is an inversion, but it also goes back to, because we were, in a way, just to also mention that we were first inspired by Bach's Fugue in A minor. So Bach is a composer, and he actually uses the time structure of the canon. A canon is a way of using like repeating a theme in many different ways, and sometimes he inverts it, but also sometimes there's a different complexity to the canon shows can create a strange loop, and strange loop is very close to an infinity loop. So you create the sense of infinite time, but in the structure of a canon. And that kind of again goes back to the theme of eternal return, and it's kind of also connected to the inverted hammer.
Yes. And and also thinking of the flower, the untold garden, I find it interesting because you also make a reference there to the flower is a mushroom, and it is the psilocybin. I think of the psilocybin mushroom, the whole network and community, and all the roots, all they feed each other, and if one breaks, the other one will take over and nurtures the other one. And it's how like our planet is kind of the mushrooms are not, they now the scientists say they are part animal, part plant. They have and they are so present in every part of our planet. So it is important that you make that reference, because help us also to understand the untold garden, the untold importance for the mushroom.
Yeah, actually, Untold Garden is our collaborator for the project. The project itself is called Garden of Ghost Flowers.
I know it's confusing.
It's confusing. We have sometimes make joke about that together with them. But
it goes well anyway, because it
goes really well.
Yeah. This is Max Scheller and Jakob Skote, who is the two directors of Untold Garden. This is our collaborators for the project.
Amazing creative collaborators as well as programmers. And what I wanted to kind of pick up on the mushrooms is that the ghost flower is actually a flower that exists for real. And it's normally called as the hacker of the Wood Wide Web, because it eats the sugars of the mycelium network, which is a mushroom that connects the trees in the forest. And so it's kind of, the ghost fly is more seen in a way as a parasite, because And therefore it has a kind of a trickster character inside the actual work, or no goes for us. But then on the other hand, it's not completely proved if it gives something back. But what is also interesting about the flowers, that it can survive in total darkness. So that's, you have it kind of looks quite ghost-like. It doesn't photosynthesize.
I mean, see,
so
I saw a video on your site about it, and which it was not the one that you just showed of the people laying down, but the actual video. Because you were talking about using, you use AI and then the voices get distorted by the, so you are definitely taken into another paradigm. Could you show us a little bit of that video? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean the video
of the Untold Garden?
Out of Ghost Clothes? Yeah, I mean, I wonder which one is this that you mean. The one that I shown you now is more or less that one, isn't it? Like always.
That is the one with the full.
No, it's just actually what you are seeing, which is that you enter in everybody in kind of visually, which is very similar the way you see yourself in Eternal Return, actually coming particles in a way.
Yeah. Should I show that now?
Yeah, would you mind just kind of like the end? We have 7 minutes to finish our.
Yeah, like for example, I mean, this is not inside the goggles, but it might be a good, good image to see what's going on, you know. Because, you know, people here at this point in the work, they are walking freely by themselves. They're not so much guided anymore by the voice. And they are exploring what happens when they come near someone and if they just stand by themselves, and how their voice and the way their voice sounds and how it looks, how it changes. The most interesting thing we did...
Look at with someone in hand.
Sorry, I think it
Okay. One of the most interesting thing that happened when we tested this work now the last time was that what we wanted was that, you know, because Max and Jakob, who is the Untold Garden, our collaborators, they were working on genetic algorithm that was reacting to amplitude and distance between the people's how far they stand when they use their voice, and also the tone of their voice. And the most thrilling thing that we experienced when we were experiencing this, when the piece was shown in Eindhoven this spring, was that when you did stand in the right proximity, and sometimes this organism, which is the ghost flower, the thing that the genetic algorithms, how it reacts, it started to build bridges between our voices and build some kind of organism. And then it was gone, and then it came back again, and it was very unstable. But the fact that
like life, of life itself.
Yeah, it was never really like building anything. Yeah, but I think that the fact that it was sort of so unstable that it was like really shifting back and forth was something that I experienced like the most thrilling and interesting.
Yes. And it was also surprised us every time we did it. It turned out differently depending on how people were behaving or not behaving, or if they were. If you didn't, for example, use your voice, you wouldn't see anything. So the only visuals that you would see were the visuals that whatever you created with your voice.
And by the way, people here are navigating because they have see-through through these Oculus goggles, so they can see the space and other people in them.
Yeah, I was talking about that video, Breaking the Glass. I think it's the minute 21. Where you are.
Oh, okay. I don't think there's anything from the ghost flower, is it? In that?
Yes.
Okay, then I should have a look. I should have a look at that. Wait a second.
Minute 21:59.
Okay, yeah.
So it's behind there. This
no,
oh,
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So 21, you said?
Yeah,
okay, so something like this, yeah. Okay, here?
Not seeing it. It's not showing you. No, still not showing the video.
You don't see the video?
Oh, no, you still see the same still photograph of people with the goggles.
Oh,
Okay, then it's frozen,
we're not
maybe.
sharing the screen anymore.
You're sharing screen?
Okay. Because we see the film.
We see the film at the moment, but is this thing you mean? No. You still don't see any changes, do you?
No, I'm not seeing any video. It's just the image of the people with the goggles. Yeah.
Okay, stop sharing, and I'm gonna share again then.
Okay, we reshare.
And I'm gonna go directly to the thing.
So let us know.
21:59. Yeah.
21:59.
Yeah. 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 There.
Okay, this one.
Yeah.
Is this what you mean?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. These are just sketches of different variations. That yeah. This is.
Do you want to play it?
Yeah. Can you play it?
Yeah. This thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the viewers, the participants are seeing themselves like this.
They see themselves, and they do see the ghost flowers, sort of like organism on top of other visitors.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then sometimes it's also in complete darkness. So you would see, we play with, because the flower itself doesn't have any color, it also turns black after its flowers. So we play with total blackout. So you only see a voice and you don't see a body. And then suddenly you see each other in see-through. But then it kind of gradually goes into white out. So I see you, we see each other, and then it goes brighter and brighter and brighter. And then the whole world around you turns white. It's almost like a blinding kind of whiteness, but you still see your voice, but then the colors of the voice are inverted.
Yeah. Is that the part? What is the for this piece you work with AI? Is how does it work? The AI.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that Max Scheller, who has been the person in Untold Garden that has been working most on that, he builds it up. He was inspired by, for example, what is called, you know, like this thing, you know, what is called this very.
I know what you mean, but
fuck, what is it called? Oh, sorry. It's basically like a very simple
game of life.
Game of life, it's called.
Yeah.
Do you know this? Like it's like a simple patterns, right? That is repeating.
It's a mathematical pattern with very simple rules. It's got almost like, I think it only goes to 4 different rules, and it's almost like an evolutionary game of how these different kind of patterns on screen kind of replicate or die and survive into different generations. And then if you let the computer run, it creates those most amazing patterns. So this is what Max Scheller has been inspired by. But I think that, I mean, we should ask him, because he's kind of course, better and in explaining. He's been working on it.
No, but I was curious, like how you collaborate. You know, like
I mean, you know,
you had the visual aspect, which you imagined that it was, and then seeing the possibilities with the technical possibility of it, and transfer all these into a VR headset.
This is the thing. This is, with such a project, this is one of the most important questions, because challenging and important question. The reason for that is that making even the genetic algorithms for this, to program it, took so long time that it was for us, for the first time we were going to show it, was very little time for us to work artistically with what we are doing the best, which is basically choreography and staging a situation, and to take people into, you know, so I mean, and
because Max spent so much time with, I mean, because the headsets, the Oculus headsets, they are not actually made, they are not created to be made for people in a group sharing the same physical space. They are made to be interactive with people on a physical distance remotely with each other. So it's almost like he had to hack into the system, and this took a lot of time.
Yeah, so it's, quite frankly, we need more time to make this be exactly what we want, and we are now going into MIT, as you know, Asher. And to present the piece to them and to see if there is an interest there, and they already are interested in it, and to see if we're probably going to need some help, or you know, Oculus need to sort of update their system somehow.
That's very. I'm always fascinated by this part of the challenges that the artists bring to these tech equipments, which they are created for a specific thing that is pretty much, you know, something commerce or something specific to the company, but then the artist comes and uses in very creative ways and disassembles everything and says, what if this could be used for other things?
Yeah.
And I think it's very important, the role that you guys are doing in this.
And I you know, like, this is something new to us in a way. I mean, before, our role as artists in a way was to challenge technology that was not existing yet. By creating prototypes of things that we thought that could be like something that would be good technology. But now with this project is rather the opposite, you know, that we take existing technology, VR, and then asking questions like, what would we like this virtual technology to do for us, and what would we like it to achieve, you know? And by doing this, we find out that all the limitations of it, you know, and the best thing, of course, would be that you would actually work with the hardware, you know, developers to be able to tweak that.
But it's also an existential question for us as artists, because I guess with this project we have to give over the art making. First of all, we have to give it over to the group. They are the makers, so we have to trust them in a way that if they don't use their voice, they will not see anything. There will be no artwork in one way. And then on the other hand, we also have to trust the AI. So the AI is the creator and determines the rules that are in the system. They will create the outcome, and that will be different every time. And we cannot control that anymore. So it's also about kind of stepping aside.
This is why I'm always calling this, we're working not with technology, but in friction with technology. Friction with technology, so that is like not always like an aiding what we want to do, it's almost working against us sometimes.
It's extremely hard. It's very, very hard.
Which is pretty much in a lot of your work, you know, also with eternal return, going back to the beginning, and it's just like, because every participant, they react differently, or they grab something and slowly and linger with it, or lay down on the floor or not. And it's so it's just they are, so for every person, they experience is slightly different than it's just a piece in a way. And I think that's one of the interesting aspects of what, you know, like this whatever like things you cannot always how do you call it, a plan for it. You just
predict
the
plan,
flexibility that they could go this way or the other way. Anyway, I want to thank you again for taking part on RealMix, and it's I know that for the audience it's a little bit challenging to experience the piece after like all these conversations, seeing how complex it is, but I just want to inspire everyone, and it just because you guys are some of the, you know, very inspirational artists that I have encountered, who like really break the molds and cross over disciplines. And in a moment also in you know, Colombia and Latin America and Brazil, where we are you know, using more and more these technologies that you guys already have been, is so ubiquitous for all of you. Is very good to like implement, you know, our own stories, our narratives, that doesn't have to be so formalized as already structured in the, you know, in Europe or in the US. But is but creating a very, very different stories that come also, many of them come with you know, storytelling or theater background, which Bogota, Colombia has a lot. And many of these things, I found that like it was a crossover between disciplines, that is not just the saying digital or just saying VR.
Mm.
Actually instigating the mind to be more open to this type of new things that have nobody thought about it. So, which is kind of what happened to me when I experienced your works. The 3 times that I got to experience it, it was always, it left me thinking and inspired. So, so thank you again. And I'll see you in a few days in person.
Yeah, a few weeks at least.
Yeah, a few weeks.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we are going to be presenting these guys here in New York in an installation all week with together with the Onassis Foundation and the Hyphen Hub. So doing a series of the installation and performances and talks. So in person. Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. Good talk. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.